when I went to New Orleans, I stayed at the Mont Leon Hotel in New Orleans, which had a rotating bar.
Of course, you have to go to a rotating bar.
Coming back from one of the trips, here was all the headlines in the paper, the Space Needle, and how they're going to have a rotating restaurant. And so I was laid back with the acting engineering manager, and I said, John Short, I said, John, I said, we can't let somebody else build a rotating restaurant. This is our town. So the phones started ringing. They got our top salesman who knew the area. They got him working on it. We started doing research, found out there had been one rotating restaurant built so far in the world, and I thought the design was lousy, but there had only been one built. So we decided we were Western Gear, so we were going to build a rotating restaurant with a clock motor drive, 3/4 horsepower clock motor drive, 186,000 to 1 reduction, and it would be on a strict 1 RPH, and we went after the job.
186,000 to 1 reduction?
Yeah.
For a gear motor for the Space Needle.
It would drive a ring gear,
Okay, gentlemen.
which was attached to the platform.
And also, our sister was the first one to run the operator.
He went and got the story.
You're too far ahead of the story. We know that already. So we'll pause it here. We leave. You were sitting in the restaurant. You decided to.
No, you sent the salesman out to
After I came back from New Orleans,
Right.
we sent out our salesmen and our local contacts, including Tom Bannon Sr., who was a big contributor to Seattle University, among other things. And the net result was we got the contract. And
And the contract was to do what?
to build all the machinery related to the rotating restaurant.
Okay. On the Space Needle.
Right. So we gave the engineering assignment to Doug Mathot, who turned out to be a brilliant engineer, but at the time was absolutely green, and this was one of his first jobs. And unbeknownst to us, he did everything in segments of 6, which is important later on. So we built the thing and put up on the restaurant. And after the restaurant had gotten started,
You put the gear work and the drive gear up at the restaurant.
oh yeah, and all the support things for it.
Okay.
After the restaurant was started, it would periodically shutter, and the management didn't like that. And
Of course, nobody wants a shuttering restaurant where you got
right.
a couple hundred guests up there.
We sent various people down and to see what we could do, and nobody come up with a solution. So I, was an assistant chief engineer by then, and I asked him permission to shut the restaurant down for 2 hours in the afternoon. And with much groaning, they agreed to it.
This is after the World's Fair?
No, it was everything was going, you know.
During the World's Fair.
Oh yeah. And I took down vibration monitoring equipment and went underneath and set that, and also watched everything run down there, which is interesting because there's one space, if you don't dive through it just right, you'll get squished. Took the vibration readings back to Everett, which we had a converted shipyard, so we had mold lofts which had long open runs. Laid out the strips, laid them out, and the answer was, the problem was obvious, that every time the combinations of 6 came together the right way, you would have small or large vibrations.
Combination of 6 of what?
Six segments, ratios 180, 6,001 came down to it. The gear segments were cut in 6.
Oh, okay.
Everything.
So it's like the dog walking across the bridge with the right pitter patter. You're gonna get a harmonic vibration.
That's correct. So we said, okay, we will have to revise all this and give you new equipment and at the most convenient time that we could shut the thing down for several days, a week. And meantime, with Chuck Harshberger, who was a super salesman of ours, was set out to get some better understandings of what was going on the other end of it, which of course was the fact that they had supplied the pan and the fireproofing cement in the pan, etc., etc. And by careful skullduggery examination, he found out that instead of pouring lightweight fireproofing cement in the pan, they had poured regular weight cement in the pan, and the whole thing had started out 20% overloaded
20% overweight from day one?
from day one, and which just amplified all this other stuff.
And it's that same way to.
So we reached an amicable agreement in which I helped negotiate, was that they would pay for everything, and including us supplying new gearing stuff and what have you, which we gave them at a discount to get these ratios corrected, and everything has run happily ever after, even though it's running on overweight. Now not overweight to our drive, but it was overweight from a weight standpoint.
What size motor runs this speed?
1 horsepower.
1 horsepower, but it must be a big.
Well, it didn't need 1 horsepower. You only needed about half horsepower.
But it's 1 horsepower with a lot of torque.
No, it's 1 horsepower clock motor, so it runs exactly 1 RPH. Now, they weren't very bright in my opinion. I told them in the original negotiation, that I would give them a 2-speed gearbox. And
So they can speed the thing up?
So that when the scissor bills were up there, going out for a ride and drinking 1 drink,
Right.
late in the evening or during the morning, that way they would get their 1 drink and out of there, and they could get more people in. But they turned me down on that one. So
I thought you remember telling me that the outside gear and the inside gear welds would align at the.
that's the ratio of 6 for
That was
1.
a 6.
So you just moved it 90 degrees so that they wouldn't line up the outside and the inside ever. So the weld
No,
spots
I don't
would-
know anything about that. All it was we had everything, including how many segments we had, how many guide rails we had, how many guide wheels we had. Everything went in this stupid 6-to-1, and they would combine and be nasty. But of course, they were combining on overload. But anyhow, that's the story of the space needle.
Interesting. Well, stories like that need to be told.